So I used to think that values, I would hear people say, that a values exercise or things like that. And I thought, like, I'm a good person. So I don't really know what that has to do with anything. But what I have found is that really being clear about your values in life and how they actually show up in your business. So, how your values lead you to decide how you are going to build relationships with people, how you're going to manage the day to day portions of your business, and also like really helping you define what your work life balance is going to be makes a huge difference. Even when you're not doing a great job at it, maybe especially when you're not doing a great job at it, but just really giving you an idea of like how to prioritize what is happening. Because when we're business owners and then when we're also trying to have a family and a life, because that was, I think most people, that's kind of the idea, right? Is that you have a job where your life fits around your job instead of your job fitting around your life. But then you get into entrepreneurship and there's so much going on and there's so much you have to figure out. And there's always the pressure of like, got to make the money, right? Got to make the rent and hopefully do much better than that. But you can get kind of lost in it. You can form some really bad habits that are definitely hard to break. And then as you actually are growing, you get into different places where you've got to make changes. You just do, right? You just have to make changes. So I've spoken about this some, recently I've hired two VAs and I've hired people off and on to do different jobs and things like that. But it was a step that I knew I was going to take and that I had been really preparing for and thinking about for a while before I actually did it. And it was just getting really clear about what those tasks were going to be and who was the right person and then getting into the mindset of like, yes, I'm spending money to make more money because it's totally natural to have questions, to take your time, to make sure that you're feeling really solid, to be kind of scary about making an investment in your business, whether that's $100 or $10,000. Like we always are thinking like, what is this investment? And is this a good decision? Like that's normal, we're humans, right? Um, but the thing that really pushed me to go ahead and actually hire someone is because I wasn't in alignment with my values of the kind of a mom that I wanted to be. And what I realized is that I was really pushing myself so hard and I was kind of getting burned out again because I've done this before, like I'm a type A. I love my work. And so that can really blur the lines, right? Because we think, well, it's just one day, it's just one more email, it's just one more hour. This is just a week where I have to hustle, it's just one Saturday. You can really get into it's just and then realize like you work all the time, right? So I had to make some decisions because I realized like I was feeling burned out, but most importantly, I felt like I wasn't showing up in the right way that I wanted to for my kids. And it's like, okay, well, what do I have to do to make these changes? But the key here is that it really wasn't in alignment with my values. And when I shifted that, when I recognized that that was happening and made a decision that I was going to fix this, it gave me the values are the thing that made it really easy to prioritize. So like, what is a priority in my business? It's definitely relationships. I would never want somebody to do sales calls for me because I enjoy calls. I enjoy discovery calls. I enjoy sales calls. And I would never want somebody to do that for me because relationships are super important to me. It's one of my values in life. It's one of my values inside of my business. And I wouldn't want someone to take that on for me. Um, the same thing about, if I set up a system where people were just onboarding and I wasn't talking, like, I just wouldn't like that. That wouldn't feel right, wouldn't be part of my values. It just wouldn't work for me. I love to network. So the time that I spend like in my Facebook group, the time that I spend where I'm, networking, which looks a little different now than it used to, but all of those types of things are not negotiable for me because it's part of my values. It's aligned. I like it. Those are things that I'm not willing to give up. So it really set out some blocks of things that were non-negotiable. So, making sure that I've got time with my kids, making sure that I quit working a certain amount of time before my husband gets home from work so that I'm not like stressed out and unavailable, so that I'm really present, so that I'm just doing the other things that I really like to do. I mean, I love my family, right? But as business owners too, that it can get complicated sometimes when your desk for us, my desk is like right here in the middle of the house. Is that ideal? No. Would I change it if I could? Yes. But this is a temporary situation. And this home that we're in right now, and this desk is temporary. But it's like I have to, again, look at those priorities based off of my values and figure out like what is going to be the best thing for me. And so I highly recommend that you guys do the same. If you are in a place where you are feeling kind of stressed, you're trying to make some decisions, to look at the things that are your values. Consider how those same values show up in your job, so your personal life and your work life, and then use that as a guide to figure out what needs to go. And when I say what needs to go, sometimes some things just need to go. You're not doing them for the right reasons. You're doing them because you think you should be doing them. You're doing them because somebody told you you should, and so now you're really bought into the fact that you should be doing it. You have a story about it that makes you feel like it's the right thing when it's not the right, like whatever it is. It's a great way to figure out then what you can give to other people. So I love creating content. I know the ways that I want to show up. It's all like personal, relationship based, sharing information, but creating graphics and editing podcasts. And like, I don't need to do all of those things. I can, and I definitely have been. And I've been like, oh, I could just push it to a Saturday, or I can just work a few hours, but I'm not willing to do that anymore. And so it's either got to go or it's got to be handed off to someone else. I've spoken before about how I've made made smaller tweaks to try to kind of minimize the amount of time I'm spending doing marketing so that I can have more time for actual client work and family time and things like that. And that one of those was initially just taking the podcast to be like bi-weekly, but I'd really love for the podcast to be weekly. Hopefully we'll get there this year, but for right now, it's even making a bigger cut and making sure that I have a podcast editor, someone to do the graphics. And so I'm able to just show up and create the podcast and really get to do the part of it that I love. So that's kind of how I use that within my business. And, I'll be honest, a lot of times it's constantly coming back to it. It's not like, well, I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. I mean, I'm human, and a lot of times it's really great. And then I start to slip back into those old patterns of, let me do this, let me do that. And it's usually something around creativity where I decide like, I want to make this, or I want to try this. And then because I love having that creative freedom. But what I also understand is that the more I take on, the less room I have. So there has to be some kind of balance. There has to be some kind of way to create that room. And that could be just giving more things to a VA. It could be doing less of some other things. It could also look like being able to do more batch working, so that I actually designate certain times of the year where I come back and work on those creative projects. I'm always trying to figure out a better way to do this, a different way to do this, because my time is important to me. And it's also very important to me that I don't let people down. So when I'm here, I want to be 1,000% here, because the truth is that when I am not really present and being very conscious, it doesn't feel good. It's not that I don't make it through the moment and juggle or whatever it is I'm trying to do, but it doesn't make me feel good about me and who I am. And I feel like that's something that a lot of other people can really identify with, is like having that same sort of feeling or that same kind of pull. So I would encourage you to think about your values, about what's really important to you. I'm going to put a link below to a resource for that, where it just has lots of values, and you can look at them and circle the ones, because you may be surprised of what you would actually pick out that you maybe haven't thought about before. So check it out, look at your values, and think about how they apply in both life and work, and how you can really use that to prioritize and see like how you can do things a little bit differently now, so that you also feel like more grounded, more aligned, and more like the boss that you really want to be.